Donna Reyes almost didn't look up. She had a window seat at Gate 14 of the Meridian Air Terminal, a paperback open in her lap, and 40 minutes before boarding. The kind of quiet Tuesday morning that asks nothing of anyone. She almost let it stay that way. The man who changed that was not loud about it. He was maybe 70 slight inside, a neat gray jacket that had been pressed with care, a rolling carry-on, no bigger than a weekend bag parked beside his shoes. He had the unhurried stillness of someone who had learned long ago that rushing rarely helped. Walter. Donna would learn his name later. Walter Coles. She noticed him first at the vending machine. A young woman, maybe 25, a sleeping infant strapped to her chest, a toddler pulling at her sleeve, was feeding crumpled bills into the slot and watching them come back out. The machine wanted flat currency. Her bills were not flat. The toddler said something urgent, and the young woman closed her eyes for just a moment, the way people do when they are very tired and trying not to show it. Walter was beside her before Donna fully registered that he had moved. He said something low, and the young woman shook her head. "No, please, you don't have to." And Walter smiled and fed his own dollars into the machine, pressed the button for the crackers she'd been trying for, and pressed it again for something else. He stood there until both items dropped, then touched the brim of an invisible hat and walked back to his seat. He sat down with his carry-on, opened a worn Bible, and that was all. Donna watched him a moment longer than she meant to, then looked back at her paperback. The words didn't move. She found herself doing the arithmetic of what she'd seen, the bills he'd used, the way he'd checked his wallet afterward with a look that wasn't quite worry and wasn't quite between. She thought, that may have been his last few dollars, she thought. That's not my business. She looked at her book. Then the gate agent called for boarding, and Walter Coles stood up and everything changed. Her name was Patrice Dunn, late 30s, a Meridian Air lanyard, the particular expression of someone who had decided before her shift started how much patience she had to spend. She scanned the boarding passes one by one with a practiced efficiency that was almost, but not quite, the same as courtesy. When Walter handed her his phone, she scanned it, and the reader beeped. Not the green beep, the other one. "Sir, this is flagging." She said it like a door closing. Walter said calmly, "It's the right flight. I checked in this morning online. It's flagging in the system." She handed the phone back. "You'll need to step to the side desk." The side desk was not staffed. Walter looked at it, then back at her. "Is there someone at the desk?" "Someone will be with you." She was already reaching for the next boarding pass. Donna lowered her book. She watched Patrice work through the remaining passengers with the same brisk efficiency. She watched two of them, both white, both middle-aged, both with the small frown of minor inconvenience, have their passes waved through after a brief exchange, a reset, a second scan, no sit desk, no waiting. Walter stood at the unstaffed counter with his rolling bag and his Bible and said nothing, watching the jet bridge door. The gate emptied. The door stayed open. Walter was still standing there. Donna stood up. She was not, she would tell her sister later, a person who made scenes. 32 years as a pediatric nurse had taught her the cost of silence and the cost of noise, and the fine art of knowing which was which. She walked to the counter and said, to no one in particular, he had a valid boarding pass. I saw her scan it. A man in a soldier's uniform, 20s, a duffel over one shoulder, looked up from his phone. A woman in a dark blazer with a rolling briefcase stopped walking toward the door and turned around. Behind them, without being asked, the young mother with the infant and the toddler had not moved from her seat by the window. She was watching Walter with an expression Donna recognized, the look of someone deciding what kind of person they are. "He bought my daughter crackers," the young mother said to the room. "He didn't have to do that." The man in uniform walked to the counter. He didn't say anything dramatic. He stood beside Donna and looked at Patrice Dunn and said, "Can we get someone out here to help this gentleman?" Patrice's expression shifted. Not remorse, not yet, but the recalibration of someone who had expected an empty gate and found it still full of people with their eyes open. "His pass flagged," she said. "It's a system issue." "Then let's fix the system issue," the woman in the blazer said. She had her own phone out. Donna would learn later that her name was Lena Marsh, and that she was a flight crew member on her day off. That she had the Meridian Air customer relations number in her contacts, because she had needed it before for other people, in other gates, and had stopped being surprised by that fact. She stepped a few feet away and made a call. She spoke quietly, the way people do when they know they don't need to perform. She gave Walter's name, she'd asked him gently, and he'd given it without drama, and the flight number, and the time, and she said, once, without heat, he has a valid ticket and he is still standing at the gate. 4 minutes passed. Donna counted them. The gate supervisor arrived, a compact man named Frank, a different kind of lanyard, the walk of someone who already knew from the call what he was going to find. He spoke briefly to Patrice. Her face did not change, but something behind it did. He pulled a tablet, typed, looked at Walter. "Mr. Coles," Frank said, "I apologize for the delay. Your reservation is confirmed. You are cleared to board." He paused. "I'd also like to let you know that our customer relations team has flagged this interaction for review, and we'll be in touch with you directly." Another pause. "We've moved you to 2A, no charge." Walter looked at him for a moment. He nodded. He said, "Thank you." That was all. No triumph in it. No performance. He picked up his roll bag, tucked his Bible under his arm, and walked to the jet bridge door with the same unhurried stillness he'd had all morning. He stopped once, at the threshold, and looked back at the gate, at Donna, at the soldier, at Lena Marsh with her phone, at the young mother by the window who was already lifting her daughter onto her knee. He nodded once, to all of them together, the way you nod at people who have just reminded you of something you'd hoped was true. Then he went through the door. Donna stood at the window and watched the plane for a long time after that. She thought about the dollars at the vending machine, and the worn Bible, and the side desk that had no one at it, and the 4 minutes she had almost let pass in silence with a paperback open in her lap. She thought about how close it had come to being a Tuesday morning that asked nothing of anyone. Frank, the gate supervisor, filed an incident report before the plane pushed back. Patrice Dunn was placed on a formal conduct review that afternoon, pending a meeting with the district service director. The customer relations team reached Walter Coles by phone before his plane landed. His return flight 2 weeks later was comped. None of that was the miracle, though. The miracle was quieter than any of it. It was the moment a room full of strangers, tired people with their own flights and their own worries and their own reasons to look away, looked at an old man standing alone at an empty counter, and decided, without a word between them, that they were not the kind of people who let that stand. Walter Coles had given away his last dollar that morning without hesitation to a woman he had never met because she needed it and he could. The room gave it back.